Okay, guys, I think thanks Quantic India for this putting up such a great topic, which is I think bothers all of us, including to us who are sitting on this dais also, relate which is on the how do I manage cloud cost, the hidden pitfalls that drains your budget. I think as we dive into this, I just want to put some figures in front of all of us. So the global cloud spend in the year 2025 is expected to be around $720 billion, which is 21% higher than what we had in the previous year. However, I think the large set of organization, I mean, more than 80% still feel that the biggest challenge that they have is the cloud cost only. And it is rightly so. I mean, all of us sitting here also feel that the cloud cost is the biggest challenge. And statistics also says that almost 30% of the cost amount that we spend on the cloud get wasted because of various things that we could have done or we do not do it in our respective organizations, and which could be as simple as you can say the non-deletion of the orphan resources, or very highly talked about auto scaling this thing, I think. So I think today what we are going to do is that we want to do a deep dive on the FinOps, not touch the basics of the FinOps, but deep dive into how these pitfalls can sabotage even this well-planned cloud strategy. So I think we will. So I think that's with that. I think let me get straight to the my first point that talks about that I said about the most talked about is the auto scaling thing, and I'll go to Hirdesh to you on that point. Why does auto scaling still lead to unpredictable and skyrocketing cloud bills? I mean, auto scaling is supposed to, by design, it was said that no, no, no. When you need, you auto scale, so it will help you optimize cost. But nowadays, people are saying that because of this thing only, my cost is increasing.
So, hello. Am I audible, guys? Hello. So, basically, as per my opinion, first of all, we have to think about auto scaling doesn't mean auto cost optimization, because auto scaling is just for to handle our spikes automatically, whatever the suppose if due to any events or due to any reason, suppose the demands will high, and how we'll handle that automatically, that comes under the auto scaling. Now the point is auto scaling, there's some more points, like might be sometimes the engineers or your DevOps manager at the time of setup your infra, at that point of time there's some poorly tuned scaling configurations, so that will be a part of your increasing your bills. And sometimes your storage and networking and hidden multi-folds kind of. So the thing is, suppose by default AWS providing a suppose 60% of CPU settings configured in your scaling policy, it means, but without knowing your traffic, if you go with the default value, then definitely you will get a multiple instances will spin up and you will get a more bills. Similarly, cold time period. So you have to understand at what level, what time your infra needs to spin up, right? So basis on that, these are the basic things which we have to keep in mind, and then we can save our cost. So I think I can say only one thing, observability. Observability is also a part of, if you are not observing your infra, your loads, and you have never done before implementing auto scaling, so I think you have to run your load testing as well. So basis on that, you can set up your configurations. Because the thing is, most of the time, the people is just set up by using your guts. But I believe you should set up configuration basis on the reality, basis on your data. So that's why you can minimize your instances. Sometimes the people is set up it, but they just forget about to downgrade that one, because entire compute, RAM, storage will not utilize after some point of time. That will cause also your improve your cost. And sometimes, suppose whenever you have set up some non-prod infra, right, then we have to think about it. Are actually that infra are using 24/7 by our customer? If not, then we have to plan to just downgrade that infra. So you have to put some strategy over there as well. So my last keynote is, obviously auto scaling is, you know, whenever you are setting that one, then you have to think about it before before to implement your configuration over there, and then I believe you can save your cost as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope that mic is working. Just check this is working. Yeah. Okay, I think great point you talked about that auto scaling does not mean the auto cost optimization. So on that point, I just want to ask Nikhil, what's your thought on the same point?
Hello. Thank you, Anand. This particular question actually reminds me of a time when we were aired on Shark Tank. So not all the companies that shoot with Shark Tank are aired, and Sony has a policy of only informing the startups just 48 hours before they'll be aired. So we were thankful that we were already on serverless technologies like Fargate and Aurora MySQL. But when we started testing our application for like 1,000 times the usual traffic, we saw that while the services were scaling up properly, but they were not scaling back down even though the traffic was non-existent. And our reason behind that was inefficient code and a lot of inefficient queries. So that was causing a scaling in problem, scaling back problem. Thankfully, we were able to fix those problems within those 24 hours, and on the day that we got aired in 2023, we only faced 500 times the traffic. So I think to summarize, I would say you must have a clear technology guidelines towards the codes and the queries that are being written. Otherwise, the auto scaling will always incur extra cost.
So Nikhil, you touched a very important point, and I'm curious to ask you a question. So when we talk about auto scaling and downward scaling, it is supposed to be done by the hyperscaler based on certain traffic patterns. But you said that, no, while my traffic was low, but because of the code issues, I was not able to scale down. I just want you 1 minute to talk about that so that we all learn something very interesting topic which you talked about.
Right. So for us particularly, we are a hospitality company, so obviously we were planning to test out bookings at scale for usual traffic. And most importantly for us, the bottleneck was that the booking engine queries itself, for the lack of better, I mean, it was a silly mistake, an index was missed from the database itself. And those queries were running, but they were not letting go of the resources. And I think that is the way. So exactly, database especially costs a lot when it auto scales.
Thank you. I am going to check in my environment also. So coming
Thank
back
you.
to you, Kusum, I think we talked about scaling, and I learned something very interesting today. Already on the first question, 2 points that I've learned, which I'm going to check. Now, see, when we do this cloud thing, something we say, no. Somebody says cost is important, and for the person who is the product side or engineer, he said, no, for me performance is important. Because somebody KPI is cost, somebody KPI is performance. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you create this balance to ensure that there is no over provisioning and at the same time somebody else you, so you, how do you keep yourself happy, and because you are the engineering person, right? How do you keep
Correct.
yourself happy and also keep happy that it's the person who is maybe the finance person who is responsible for the cost perspective. So
If we talk about, as you said, right, for someone the KPI is different. So I think one very important thing when we talk about cost is operational efficiency and operation excellence in the system. So when we build a product, definitely if product is not good, is not having performance rightly set for the right volume, then it's not going to make customer happy, and ultimately even if you are spending less or more, not going to be impactful because it is not serving the purpose it was built for. So to set that right, I think we need to identify the right infra for the given requirement to be built. For example, if I am building a transaction processing system, what will be the volume I'll be dealing with? What will be the peak times for that particular system? And then, you know, at what time I can scale down and what time I can scale up, and not having the hard coding configuration is what one challenge I've seen in the system, where people are, you know, kind of creating hard coded and assuming that this infra is going to be like this always and run like that. So you need to design your system based on the volume you're expecting and set that requirement very rightly with the product team. S&P Global is a fintech company, and we have to deal with key product partners, product owners. So to get their requirement and then at the same time set the cost right, it is a very, very difficult step to do because it requires a lot of pilot project testing, profile data testing, and then we do that MVP testing with the profile up and down. We give full, you know, 1 to 2 weeks timeline to align on the volume and the right infra for it, and keep it fully configurable so that it can be launched on demand and can do the right thing at the right time. So that's our strategy, keep it configurable and hit the demand.
thank you. I'll come, Dilawar, to you. I mean, MobiKwik is one of the tech-driven company, I would rather say. So how do you avoid this over-provisioning and still ensure that performance is achieved as desired?
Yeah. Hi Anand. Hi everyone. Yeah, this is the, so everyone be right goal should be right performance with right or optimal cost. Right? Everyone wants in the organizations there should be optimization, but how can we do the optimization with right performance? So just I am telling the live example of one of my applications which is recently faced. So just we have developed one email based systems, driving email based systems. So where we have to fetch some users email details from the Google sites email, every details of the users. So in that case, just based on the number of emails, user count, so many pods we have to launch in the infra. Like you can say more than 50 pods launch in the systems and cost spike. So after that we discuss with the tech team how can we optimize, because it is not right approach. Every time you are saying we have to fetch this time 1000 users requests, now we have to fetch more than 50,000 email requests. Then I saw no, this is not right approach to scale the infra in EKS. Then ask what is your primary throughput and what is the basic metrics on base what we can scale the infra. Then say we are just fetching the events. Then I asked from where you are fetching the events. Then they told we are fetching the events from the Kafka. It means Kafka event based system. Then we asked, okay, you have to share some Kafka based event matrices into the Prometheus. Just share those matrices, we will deploy those matrices, and we will deploy some tools like just take an example of CADA. So you can deploy that CADA tool, and CADA tool it means you have to fetch some customer matrix, because most of organizations are fetching like CPU or memory, and based on that we are just doing the scale of infra. So instead of like basic standard or default matrices, we go with some customer matrices, whatever the requirement as per the application, deploy those custom matrices, and based on those matrices we can scale the infra.
Yeah, I think you touched another very important point is that don't blindly use some data, some matrices to have this optimum performance and have the configuration set. That's lovely. I think, Rupali, I'll come to you now. Another very interesting topic, and I look at is the, what is DevOps? DevOps, we all talk about the speed, collaboration is the key of the DevOps when we talk about. how do we embed the in that ecosystem of people who are into the DevOps this cost consciousness and the financial accountability? Because they said, no, boss, I am only the developer. How do I do you have this challenge in your organization also?
Yeah,
so what is the solution to this particular problem?
I think that's a very interesting question. And before that, I'd like to give a brief background of what I do. So I lead a global platform teams in dunnhumby. It is a Tesco's company, which is a customer data science company, and we do a lot of data-driven in behavioral data science for the retail giants like Walmart, Tesco, Target, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, all the FMCG and these clients. So these customers, who are huge customers, they make multi-million dollars on what are the outcome of our platforms. So my role is to ensure that the platforms that we create are highly scalable, reliable, and of course cost efficient. Cost is something which we can't ignore. So DevOps, and now which extends to the platform engineering, because I lead the platform engineering. So the main purpose of, I would start like that. You have mentioned that we want speed, but sometimes unmanaged speed comes with very high into our cloud bills. So for me, it is very important that your FinOps becomes a part of your NFRs like security and reliability, etc. Because I lead the platform engineering, it gives me benefit of centralizing and creating the guardrails, the CI/CD. So we create the golden paths where all the our teams, which the products are experienced. So we try to centralize those things. We try to orchestrate all those cognitive load from the different teams, and we have standardized pipelines which can cater to FinOps, then your NFRs, concerns, etc. at the centralized place. So the idea is we use it becomes a culture thing also, and technically in CI/CD pipeline what we do is we use Terraform for infrastructure creation, and we use OPA, that policy as code, and there are OPA checks, and then your conf test checks, which are a part of our pipeline. So say if you're creating a resource, it is a very important thing, because you want to define the guardrails with how it impacting the speed of the developers. So while you create the resource, what we do is we have those guardrails into, while you merge your PR, our pipelines stop it if the tagging. So tagging looks very small thing, but as my experience has been into the cloud and for 22 years, tagging is something which is under taken, but it is the most important thing in cloud. So we ensure that the tagging via your CI/CD pipelines. Then they are recommended if you are overutilizing the budget, or you are the size is not right, etc. That we have built with the maturity in our pipelines. And then we use the Azure. We are heavily multi-cloud, so we use Azure policies and GCP org policy also to create, if there is some skip which goes from the CI/CD pipeline, it is there onto org level policy on the cloud also. And now we are moving towards a Gen AI accelerator, so it becomes an accelerator for us. So think of it like it's a merge bot for you, and it gives you whenever you are merging your PR, and then it gives you that your tagging is missing or something like that. So I think observability for us and the speed for us becomes very important. And we don't want to, with all these guardrails, these are not roadblockers, but they help us, define the right, discussions later.
So I want to cut you here because
sure.
I have two things coming to my mind, and I must ask that thing, and I want you to answer in one line only. First thing I just looked at is that probably Terraform helps in terms of speed because you have standard configuration, which is speed of deployment. But you also talked about multi-cloud. So I want you to answer in one line if that. How does multi-cloud helps? Why multi-cloud? Does it helps in the cost saving, or does it helps in terms of risk? Why?
So this is the customer's requirement, because we work with retail giants, right? So this is a mix of what. So our customers are on GCP, so they would like to integrate with GCP. So we need to integrate with.
It is more driven by the customer choices,
by the
not
customer
as
choice as well as the risk also. So we always have the exit strategy for both the clouds, etc. So so that the disaster recovery or exit, because the stake is very high. So that's why.
Thank you. I think so. We started from the auto scaling, we move towards the over provisioning, then we said speed, collaboration. I want to come to you, Avinash. Something, a mix of this thing where I'm trying to understand from you that how do you balance the developer autonomy? He said, boss, I have to do this thing, you don't disturb me. But at the same time, bring the cost governance into it. Because you again are being a tech company. I mean, PhysicsWallah has been known to be, I think you have gone IPO or you're still going IPO, about to go? Yeah, so I want to know more about it. What is the key sauce behind this success?
All right. So I think when we talk about developer autonomy, I think important thing to understand is that what do we automate first? I mean, we shouldn't go after automating everything. So we probably need to understand, the needs of the organization, that you might not need to automate the provisioning of GPUs for the developers, but you might need, for example, you want to provision Kafka clusters, or automating the creation of topics. So I think that is one thing that we have to understand. So I sit with my team on a monthly basis, and we go through all the operations tickets that we get, and we try to automate things which is going to get most value on the table. Now on the cost optimization part, right? How to ensure that this is this cost that where the automation happens, it is not actually draining my budget. So for that, I think having observability at places and giving the right alerts to the right stakeholders, probably tagging the right, having the right tags on the resources, and then relaying those monitoring, alerting to the relevant developers and probably the managers. That I think plays a crucial part. Now, one more aspect that I would like to touch on this is we shouldn't also give probably too much visibility into the cost to the developers, right? If they are only thinking about cost, this might hamper the innovation that they are about to do. So there has to be a right balance between what do you need to show. So probably you can just give that cost visibility to maybe the principal engineers, right? Not maybe senior engineers. So I think that's how we can go about it. So it's more like we want the developers to drive very fast on a highway. At the same time, we want that their headlights are on, and we keep them showing that this is the speed limit that you have.
I think very important point you touched about that. The person who is actually developing, let him drive the car properly. He should not be bothered about whether petrol is there and how much petrol is required. Let somebody else who is bothered about how much petrol to be in the car, at what speed car is to be driven, let that be the job of somebody else. The person who is supposed to, let him drive peacefully. I think very important point you touched about. Anand, I want to come to you now. Okay. And I'm sure this problem is for everybody sitting in this room, including the people sitting on the dais also. And that is, I hope I'm not belling the cat. The silos that exist between engineering and the person who is supposed to monitor the cost. Engineering says, boss, I will do it. And finance and somebody who is supposed to control whether it's FinOps team, whether finance is, boss, your cost is zooming. How do we bridge that this silo, and ensure that the cost is a shared responsibility? It is not only for a FinOps team or IT team or a finance team job, but everybody who is into that is conscious of the fact of the cost. While I agree with him that Avinash talked about that, not the developer should be bothered about it, but it's still a shared responsibility.
So this is pretty interesting question, right? So now I'm having a 15-16 years of experience developing all facets of engineering, right from Informatica to e-commerce, now into digital distribution. I have worked into big companies to startup where you have immense cost pressure and then huge innovation opportunity, right? So it brings a lot of challenge to perfectly balance between this cost, innovation, and engineering mindset. And now AI ML coming into the picture, the cost has a different dimension altogether. Because why I am telling all this, because almost every organization is now trying to do something on AI ML part. Currently I am also doing something on that front. So traditionally prior to 1 or 2 years before, we just had to have service cost, database cost, some caching cost. Now you have on top of LLM cost, you know, and everybody is trying to get credits from here and there, right? That's the harsh reality. What happens once you have these credits gone away from you, right? Then you have a huge, humongous cost of LMs, which is also coming into your head. So everybody has to then speak into a single language. We definitely try to do that what is the cost per transaction, instead of engineering saying, this is the CPU cost, this is the database cost, this is the ingress cost, and FinOps telling every month that your monthly cost is this. So they have to come to a single language, according to me, that this is the cost per transaction, cost per active users, and this information has to be given to the developers. That developers should be also aware of what is the cost that we are incurring, right? So that is the first thing. Then we have to have a central dashboard, right, across the organization, right, just for the FinOps part, whether you go to any FinOps company or you develop by yourself, right? And then either directly linking it through the CI/CD pipeline, just as and when weekly, or as what Avinash said, right? Or 15 days, in 15 days, what you can, senior managers can come, or senior guys, engineers guys can come, and then let developers know what is the cost involved in it. So I think these are the two strategies we can take, right, to at least make developers understand the cost impact, and then they can talk about it.
No, I think you rightly said. I think very important that if there is a dashboard which is shared across the organization, then everybody has a visibility of the cost. Then it is not only one function, then it actually becomes a shared responsibility when everybody has to work upon this thing. So, I mean, so who does manage the cost in your organization?
So we have a DevOps team, as well as we have multiple teams, right? It actually looks into the cost part of it, because even category also talks about what is my share, because they have to show profitability, right? And then this cost comes directly into their part. So even category team is also chasing us, because they have to be CR3 profitable, so right, and some share of the cost is also responsible to them. So in my organization, it is a shared responsibility.
You are very lucky, I am sure. I don't think most of the people would have. Let me ask this question to the audience. Is this a practical challenge? I mean, anybody wants to share what you are doing in your organization, how you are managing, who manage? Anybody? You can raise a hand and we can probably send a mic. Or you can just stand up, probably we would be able, yeah, you just take your name and then say, I mean. One second. Do we have a mic, please?
Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. My name is Alok Singh and I am from Bold LLC. I am responsible for the entire costing of cloud, along with the other tooling stack we have today. The challenge is very much while managing the cost, especially if you are having multiple tool stack, which is not organized enough to provide costing output. But yes, beyond FinOps, we have developed our own in-house tool using Power BI, and it is so sophisticated that it gives us the entire pitfall of what we are doing today and where the wastage is going on. So if you are removing the wastage, and if your tool is capable enough to provide an optimization scope, it will be very much helpful for any organization to reduce the cost, because if you are not in a sales department, being as an operational or execution guy, you have only way to reduce optimize the cost is to reduce the wastage. So that is why we have developed our own tooling stack, and that is helping us in Bold.
Thank you. Thanks for your inputs. Really appreciate. Avinash, I want to ask same question. I want to have seek your inputs on this thing, silos and this thing, if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's again. I think someone was mentioning before that you need to speak the same language, right? So so in my organization, I am primarily responsible for managing the cost, right? So cost of infrastructure, obviously. So I work closely with the finance team, and we have sat together and created the annual operating plan for ourselves. So it was not me giving all the details. We were sitting together, we were collecting feedbacks from, let's say, the business, how much, how much growth are they expecting, how will that impact my infrastructure cost, right? So this is something that we have done. So now anything changes, we both know why this would, change. And all the cost savings initiatives that we take, for example, let's say if I'm reducing the cost of my Elastic Cache. So what would essentially happen is that I know I might have saved, let's say, $10,000 in a month, but that cost might increase on the compute, right? So now this is very difficult to explain to the finance team since the overall bill of, for example, AWS has remained the same. So it's very difficult for them to understand, right? But when we created that AOP, so we sat together and I clearly gave them the plan that this is the cost that I will be spending on each service. So now I can explain that this is what this particular service has costed me, right? So I think it's all about, it's probably more of a people problem. How do you handle the people and you get on the same page and make sure that you work together rather than in silos.
Thank you. I think we largely covered some of the important point, and Dilawar did give one example from his own organization. But I think now I wanted to ask to all the panelists, and I would request, we have been managing pretty well on the time, so I want to continue to manage pretty well on the timing. But there's a question that is in my mind, and I want to ask each one of you. See, when on a cloud, it is not possible that we have been perfect first time. Correct? We might have learned from the mistake that we would have committed during the various cloud implementation that we do. So, I mean, you don't need to name your organization, but I still want to know that what is the single biggest cloud mistake, if I have to make a statement, what is the cloud mistake you have ever made? Or, okay, you can say whatever you witnessed a mistake, a cloud mistake, that is one. And what was the key learning from it? So maybe Rupali, start from you itself and let's...
yeah, sure. So I think we all have covered about auto scaling. So from my personal experience, I'll add. So when we started cloud in 2015, so there was this thing about auto scaling that we, any load that analytics job that we are doing, if it is not working, then we auto scaled, and it just we were just transitioning from the physical servers to the cloud. So then I think it was the biggest mistake, and then we realized that not all the performance problems are the finance problems, they are majorly the architectural problems. We sorted, the architecture, and we ran half of the price of the cost that we were bearing. So yeah, not taking a lot of time. I think it is very important that we look into the architecture decisions as a ongoing process.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Dilawar?
So as Rupali said, I say no one want to expose you what done the biggest mistake in your life, right? But still I'm just as a part of guidance. You just take the example of like S3 storage, right? Sometimes we will just move the object from one class to another class without just analyze how many number of objects residing to the S3 bucket. And after that, suddenly when we started the transition to movement from one story to another, so after next day we are able to know, yeah, this is a 60 lakh something cost, the spike. So always we should do some predictive analysis on any movement of in the cloud, because once you started the initiation anything, you can't never stop it. And you can also, at least for POC account, you should keep a separate account in your organization. Instead of ask the developer or any your employees, you can do the POC in the staging account or something. You should put some limits on that POC account as well. That can also optimize your cost.
I mean, I just can't agree more with what Rupali and Dilawar you have said. I mean, I hope, I don't know what are we going to reveal more on it, but it's very interesting to know. Yeah, Hirdesh, do you also?
So actually, I just want to share some one incident with you guys. So I think, in my opinion, I believe the cost part is directly linked to the storage. I believe, because whenever you do any kind of change in your infra in terms of auto scaling and all, So I just want to share one incident. Suppose that someone has tried to put some events in our queue. At that particular point of time, they just do some mistakes because they have just used the same identifier for multiple topics. So basis on that, the multiple of requests has been increased in our infra. Basis on that, our storage, so our database will had created some bottleneck. So basis on that, as per our auto scaling, vertically our database has been increased. So for that particular point of time, my cost has increased because the database is very crucial and very cost effective. So basically, I believe, in my opinion, you have to just aware about the database side, storage side.
Thank you. I'll go to Nikhil, to you. So we learned three unique aspects. Yeah.
So for when we started Brevistay back in 2016, technology landscape was obviously very different than it is today. And most of the time it happens is the technologies that you deem cutting edge and latest become obsolete very quickly. So we handpicked some services on AWS, we handpicked some tools to monitor them, and we just started building. We kept on focusing more on the business side of the things, and it eventually resulted in a technology debt for us. And we, by the time we came around to upgrade the technologies to the latest and whatever better observability can be provided, we had already kind of paid an interest on that technology debt. And so for us, I think one of the mistakes was, to not to keep building 8 years straight and then look back into the technologies that you opted 8 years back. We should keep, clearing the technology debt, both on the code side, development side, and as well as the DevOps side. I think Hirdesh mentioned storage. So for us also storage, when we upgraded our storage engines to version 2 of serverless, we started getting more important parameters that helped us reduce cost across our infrastructure.
So I think, thanks Nikhil. So I think, so Rupali talked about architecture and you went a step further. You said no, not only architecture, but you look at your code, look at how you can use the serverless and performation, probably that could be one of them. Yeah, to you, that's, yep, fine.
So fundamentals for me is very important, right? What I see, what I have observed these years, right? Sometimes we are in a race of using multiple technologies, but when we are using it, we actually forget how the underlying technology works, right? So simple example, I was using DocumentDB, and the cost was coming pretty huge for a long time, right? And the ingress cost was huge, and we are not able to understand how. And we also talked to and we raised a ticket to AWS, and we were clueless how to reduce the cost. But one day we sat together with the DevOps team, and then we started to investigate. We found out the ingress cost was just because of a simple click that we haven't done. And the click was to enable IO optimized setting, the initial, during the creation of the DocumentDB. So that has let us know that there's even a small mistake that you do gives you a huge cost. Right. So
thank you. I want to give last word to the lady, but so Avinash, over to you.
Okay, so I think one generic thing which is usually underestimated and it never comes up when you are actually estimating the cost of a setup, right, is the data transfer. So that just ruins the budget every time.
Absolutely.
So be it from compute side, be it on top of storage, if you, let's say you forgot to put a CDN on top of S3 and you just expose S3 directly, your data transfer might shoot up a lot of times. So that's one. And one example that I have faced is around the logging. So peak season, and developers just add few debug logs, and that is, let's say, getting logged every time. That just this one mistake led to 2x spikes in my APM cost. So I think, yeah, continuous monitoring, and probably we just missed monitoring that cost for a while, and you know, that's how this cost spike came in. So having alerts is, like, I think very important. You know, you just can't rely on you know, manual monitoring of the cost.
Thank you. Yeah, to you, Kusum.
Yeah, so for me, it's when we actually, it's a very recent thing when we launched a major platform for reconciliation, which are like your transaction, customers are having daily security transaction and we reconcile on the fly for it, and these are around 9 million transactions and all. So what we assumed it actually, and we launched a hi-fi infra, I will say, from all aspect. And when we monitor it, it went there for, it was stay there, I think for around 1.5 months. And after that, once we were doing a, troubleshooting for one production incident, I kind of checked that, the volume is not what customer asked for. And their transactions are only in 1,000, it's not even coming in millions. So I think double checking on whether whatever was committed and asked and checked and everybody said yes, it's like that. I think regular review is very important. Are you really there where you should be? But yeah, at times you do it for your big hypercare customer, you launch big settings, but double check is definite. Is that required, and shift it if not required. I think that is a very recent one I can remember.
Thank you. Thanks, Kusum.
So Anand, I would like to add
please.
just one more
Sure.
thing. So since AI ML things are already there in market, right? And everybody is trying to build RAG-based chatbots and some voice-based, multiple things, right? So recently what I have observed, you have to wisely go ahead and choose which model, because some of the models are pretty costly, and we have faced that. The per chat which was coming to us, it was 6 rupees. Now we have reduced down to some paisa, right? Yes. So the choice of LLM nowadays plays a vital role, right? So please go ahead and see that, right? So
No, absolutely. I think I want to again go back to the audience. You have been listening very patiently. I hope that we were able to give some of the, for me, most of the points were very relevant when with the mistakes, and that's what we are facing day in, day out in our organization. Anybody wants to talk about on the anything in terms of the cost saving thing, which probably you are doing in organization, which could be useful for others to learn from you? Anybody, I mean, can raise an hand and we can have quick, I think we can take quick one question from anybody. Anybody? Yeah, go ahead. Just take your name and the company and then we can go ahead with it.
Hello. Yeah, hi. Gagandeep this side. We are from Class Plus team. So you just spoke about the biggest mistake one might have done while doing something in DevOps, right? I think one of the coolest project for a DevOps guy, but at the same time, one of the scariest project for that DevOps guy would be a migration.
Absolutely.
Someone spoke about multi-cloud, right? So we were recently migrating from, let's say, vendor X to vendor Y. And when you are doing a big migration where big companies, your complete system is involved, you have to calculate the timeline of the project, because let's say somebody is funding that migration for you, right? And if that calculation goes wrong, your complete, in spite of making SOWs, a complete project plan, and somebody spoke about data transfer, you miss those particular things. Again, the cost not getting involved in that. You miss those things and the complete project goes hayward. And that is something which we did. We missed a lot of things there, but that was a learning for us, and I think, yeah.
No, I can't agree more than you, huh? And because I know a company where migration was stopped after 95% of the migration was done, just because of some of the mistake, and the cost was just ballooned. Thank you. Very important.
I'll just give an
point
example. Just give an example. In our case, we, let's say, speculated that our migration would go for three months. But even after migrating the complete platform, the complete application, our database migration went for next 6 months. So that was the biggest learning for us, and I think that is something which we did.
Thank you. I think that we have one question. Somebody wants to respond on the back also. Quick, yeah. Quick 30-second response, please.
Hi, this is Abhisheka from Ecomail. So very specific use case we came across. We were setting up SFTP servers for all our clients in SaaS model. So separate VPCs, separate SFTP servers for all of our clients. When the number of clients were few, the cost was okay. And AWS was telling us that, okay, if you shut down the SFTP server, we will not cost you. Suddenly, one fine night, they said, okay, if you shut down the server, no, it's still billable, you have to destroy the server. So that led us SFTP server running 24/7 for all the clients, 365 days. You can imagine the cost that went up. So what we did is we set up a common SFTP server. It was a huge nightmare for us, but we did it. And we set up segregated roles for all our clients. And with one server, we are catering to more than 100 plus clients, saving more than $300,000 a year. So that was one specific use case for
Thank you.
cloud.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think as our time wraps up, we are bang on time. And this was faster than an unchecked auto scaling event which could have done on the cloud. So we were pretty, so this is this thing. I think let's crystallize this, the gold from whatever we have discussed. I think we talked about how do we bridge the silos, and we also talked about that cost should be a shared responsibility. We also talked about some very interesting mistakes which we have either witnessed or we have made in the, I will leave it to that, that ambiguity between these two words. But I think the important point is in the architectural thing, we talked about database and storage thing we need to look at. Avinash talked about the how the cost of the data transfer and which is another thing, and we talked about the databases, egress cost, scaling, everything. I think this is some of the very important points we talked about. I think, so I think we must need to remember each one of us that it is not a nice to have. So cost saving or waste, reducing waste is not a nice, it is must to have. At that too when we have 30% of the budget at stake, and every organization is under huge, tremendous pressure from the cost saving perspective. See, another thing is that, see, cloud resources may be infinite, but the budget obviously is not. So I think we need to be very conscious of every dollar that we spend on the budget. I think, and another thing which Avinash talked about is that while cost saving is extremely important, but we must be conscious of the fact of that it should not cut, it should still help in terms of the innovation. It should not scuttle the innovation. So just no because of cost. I think that is another thing we discussed about it. I think, so it is all about, we talked about observability, we talked about various things. I think it is all about giving right tools and empowering our team and building a culture of cost so that it becomes a culture not from the cost cutting. I think with that, I want to thank my fellow panelists, and I want to thank all, especially to the lovely audience. We had some good input which coming from you all. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.